Of course, I couldn't stand up today in this place, in this line of work, and not acknowledge that it doesn't feel like I'm giving a speech at a hard time for Labor. Even for true Labor believers, there are times when it can feel frustrating or hard work to come out and support a cause that we all believe in deeply for a party that we all love deeply. But for Labor, by its nature and its causes, we are a party of optimists, a party that believes that we can, through politics and government, help improve the lives of those around us. We can't let the critics, the naysayers and the nasties define us. They are never going to acknowledge our hundreds of achievements. So the truth is we might be down, but we're not out. Our party is older than the nation itself. Our causes are timeless, although they take on different forms over different decades. Whether it was Medicare and the snowy mountain schemes of the past, or disability care and the national broadband network of the future, Labor is the only party that delivers compassion and nation building in equal measure. We can and should be proud of this. We can and should focus more on this. We've allowed internal tensions to overshadow our core mission for too long. We are a proud party with a proud record. Now we need to start behaving like one. Politics moves so fast these days that we find it hard to reflect and absorb what's been done. The media struggles to report policies that salve decades-old ailments, preferring the daily itch. Perfect examples of this are the NDIS, health reform, the National School Improvement Plan and the NBN, even the new ASIO review system. These are structural, compassionate, complex reforms and investments that will deliver lasting improvements for the nations. And because progressive parties like ours want to achieve so much, we don't often take the time to reflect enough on what has been achieved. Labor in government has been so busy, arguably too busy, that we've been on to the next challenge without taking the time to stop, appreciate and be proud of all the work that we're doing. So retiring gives me a good excuse to pause and focus on what has changed in my time here, locally in my electorate of Gellibrand, but more broadly for the nation. Not all my hopes of 15 years ago in my first speech have been fulfilled, that is true. Becoming a republic is one of them. But a great many others have. And those issues that are left and new ones to come just underline the point that Labor's mission is still a work in progress, not one where our work is complete. Locally, we can take great pride over the reduction in unemployment and pulling many thousands of families living in poverty up into better circumstances. We've opened up university for more kids than ever before. We've set up the National Congress for Australia's first people, ensured people have better access to doctors and nurses when they need them and more chance of becoming them if that's what they want. We've put fairness back into the workplace and introduced the National Disability Insurance Scheme. As an issue I raised strongly in my first speech, I'm pleased that we've achieved much for women, although that path still has a long way to travel. We should celebrate supporting pay equality for the lowest paid women in the workforce, increasing government assistance for childcare, having the first female Governor-General, Attorney-General, Prime Minister, and the better protection from violence against women and children in family laws. And we have paid parental leave at last, thanks to Labor. We can be proud of those things and many more. Yet I can't help but despair a bit on this front as well. We have a capable, tough, smart, determined woman as our Prime Minister, yet she has been subjected to some of the most crass, silly, petty, sexist and just plain rude behaviour for years. At the same time, we have the Defence Force grappling with degrading, demeaning and plain awful treatment of women in and out of the workforce. The proper treatment of women has long been a priority for me. In the law, before I came here, I acted for too many women, young and old, who were treated appallingly in their workplaces, from pizza shops to TAFE colleges. And these latest events show us that there is a dangerous underbelly still compromising women in Australia, and that the feminist cause is just as urgent as before. It really is time for people to understand how corrosive sexism is, to acknowledge that it deliberately sets out to diminish authority and sideline the real issues, how constantly sexualising women disempowers them, and how extreme and violent language can turn into or encourage violent and dangerous behaviour. I'm proud to be on this side of the House amongst so many Labor women and men fighting to tackle this issue that affects so many Australians in many walks of life. Men are joining women in these fights. Stephen Smith, as the Defence Minister, couldn't have been more clear in his expectations for our military, despite his strong stand being criticised initially within Defence. Bill is fighting to get rights to request part-time work into our laws. Simon and Kevin, as leaders, were never afraid to have good women in senior roles in their show. And personally, I want to thank Joe Ludwig for covering me so willingly while I was on maternity leave, and Anthony Albanese for insisting that I be given leave to attend Rebecca's first day at school. These fights are both small and big, national and personal, and I'm proud that for Labor, it's the men and women fighting together for these changes. These changes will make us a better nation. They will utilise the nation's potential more thoroughly. And after all, isn't that what Labor's about? Whether it's women fulfilling their potential freely or getting all Australians access to the high-speed broadband, whether they're in city or country, rich or poor, for education, for employment or just for fun, and better schooling for kids who need the most help. This is the great work of our party. And these issues, along with many others, highlight that our work is not yet done here, that our efforts are all part of a long Labor continuum that will continue well past today. Each step is just one in the great sweep of Labor history, taking years, if not decades, to build a better country. As we fight each and every new challenge, we must remember that Labor is on the good side of the nation's history. It's a record and history we need to discuss more widely and use it to help shape a positive future. Focus on this example. When I was elected 15 years ago, a bright young kid in my electorate who dreamed of being a doctor could not train in the west of Melbourne at all. Now they can study in new science labs at Braybrook Secondary School. They can do their whole medical training in the west at Sunshine Hospital or at Werribee. At Sunshine, home to Melbourne University's first new medical school in a century. They can train near home where their professional skills are sorely needed in a community they understand and are part of, all because of Labor investments. But this story is replicated across the country, from the first Northern Territory Medical School, making a medical degree more of an option for Indigenous kids wanting to stay close to land, or to the Blacktown Clinical School, training much-needed health staff for the busy western suburbs of Sydney. And of course, not all our kids want to be doctors, so we've invested in other facilities. Just in my electorate, budding young chefs can visit the hospitality school at Victoria University or see the new aviatronics centre being built at Footscray City College, all built as part of Labor's education revolution. We're the ones who've rebuilt the schools and kept the nation's tradies in employment when other countries dipped into severe recession. We're the ones who invested in hospital, cancer and GP infrastructure, where the states let down communities like Bega or Albury or Nepean or Whyalla or Townsville or so many more. We've invested in people as well as infrastructure. In my part of the country, that's the Ring Road, Regional Rail, now Melbourne Metro, all the while the Liberals are promising to ease traffic burdens in the east. But this story is replicated across the nation. And that's not even to mention some of a long list of smaller investments, nevertheless significant in Gellibrand, like the community chef in Altona, wonderful new housing for the homeless and disabled, the Australian Ballet Warehouse, the Yarraville Community Centre, the Bulldog Sports Centre, community childcare, green investments in industry like Toyota and CSR Sugar. The point is, locally and nationally, we are giving people a better future, investing to build a nation and investing compassionately. In my first speech, I mentioned my dad having died when I was young from cancer of the esophagus. I didn't imagine then that I would be later staring down tobacco companies and defending our actions in the High Court, nor that I'd be speaking to the United Nations about our world-first plain packaging laws. Nor did I might say, expect to be serenaded by Simon Chapman or Paul Grogan for their unique take on the song Leader of the Pack, or to have Mayor Michael Bloomberg declaring in his New York drawl that when it comes to health prevention, Nicola Roxon is a rock star. And so I'm very proud of that work, whether it was my father dying too young 35 years ago or Minister Emerson's brother just last month. I'm proud that we're trying to reduce the harm to other families. And I'm proud of our regional cancer centres, PBS listings, High Court appointments, properly recognising midwives and nurses. I must say that national pricing and performance measures in health or establishing e-health records must rate amongst the least sexy reforms to advocate, but they will enable efficiency and innovation into the future. And I could keep going on a much longer list, through to the importance of setting up the Royal Commission into Child Abuse, or at last seeing a National Children's Commissioner established, but I would keep you all here till dinner time. From here on in, it's other MPs, like all of you here, it's branch members, it's candidates, and an army of Labor believers who will have a chance to play their part in the ongoing Labor story that we all work so hard to shape and deliver. The nation needs you to tackle the growing insecurity in employment that is starting to haunt workers, particularly women. We need you to jump on racism rearing its head again, whether in the AFL or close to home at Sunshine Police, mocking our African communities. We need you to protect the environment and be champions of our mental health or dental care reforms. There are so many new chapters yet to be written in Labor's grand history, and it's our collective responsibility to keep focused on this purpose, delivering to those in the community who need us to voice and act on their concerns. Nation building and compassion, looking after those who need a bit more help and a lot more opportunity. This is Labor's enduring mission. It's one to be proud of, and it's a mission that we should fight for. Thank you.